Taped from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
Hey, Darren, happy end of season?
Happy end of season to you, good sir. We did it. We did it.
We made it through another season. This actually marks, we have now covered 6 full seasons of Saturday Night Live on this podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they said it wouldn't last.
They said it shouldn't last.
They said both those things and more. But we can't waste too much time with our weekly banter session this week because we've got our now traditional end of season guest. We've got Mr. Dennis Perkins, who writes the SNL recaps for Paste Magazine and is formerly of the AV Club. So welcome,
Hi, guys.
Dennis.
Thank you. As ever. It's really great to be here.
Yes, thank you. We're always happy to have you here. We were trying to remember before we started recording. We were like, is this the 3rd year we've done this or the 4th year? And we could not remember, and I'm too lazy to look it up. So it's at least the 3rd, I think.
It's definitely at least the 3rd time.
We think. We should look this up and get a professional organization. But, our research department is crap.
Yeah. Listeners, call in. Let us know how many times Dennis has been here. Do our job for us.
Yes, as we want our listeners to do. So, as we like to do when the SNL season wraps up, we like to discuss the highs, the lows, go through our favorite sketches with some honorable mentions, and since the show's heading into its 50th season, just discuss where the show's going, what we think is going to happen. So, we're gonna have all the hot takes this week.
The hottest of takes, sizzling, fresh out the oven.
Yeah, and last year, if you might remember, we ran really long. We each picked like 5 favorite sketches, and the podcast ended up going 3 hours. So we're like, we got to cut this down a little bit. So this year we're going to do our top 3 favorite sketches, along with like a few honorable mentions, and hopefully that'll keep it to a more reasonable length. But this is probably still going to be a supersized episode.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it high and tight, but if it gets long and sloppy, hey man, we tried.
We do go on a bit, so
yes. Dennis, just right off the bat. So, what were your thoughts on this season 49? Do you think it was a good season, middling, so? Down the crapper? What were your thoughts on it?
Certainly not down the crapper. I think I ended up. As painful as it was, I had to reread a lot of my reviews just to kind of pick out sketches and stuff, and I was surprised to note.
Let me interrupt you real fast because I want to give you a little boost right here. You were telling me before we started recording that you just recently realized you've marked your 10th year of writing SNL recaps professionally.
That is true. Yep. My first one was on the AV Club. It was back in May of 2014. It was the Jim Parsons and Beck episode.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Is that the one where Beck did clap hands?
I don't remember. That's as much research as I did.
I love that performance. But with the puppets and
when we were doing like our all-time favorite musical performances, Darren brought that one to my attention. I was like, oh man, I totally forgot about this, but this is awesome. But I just wanted to give you a shout out for that. So congratulations.
Oh, if little boy me knew, he would be very impressed. He would also want to know what the internet is and what a podcast is.
Yes. And then he'd be like, oh, you're getting paid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. I was surprised reading through my I didn't realize this was a pattern that I was making, that because I have a section where I say, what's the best sketch of the week, what's the worst sketch of the week, and a lot of times it was like I would basically pass. I would say, I can't in good conscience say there was a best or a worst this week, or depending on the week. There's a lot of pleasant competence, I would say.
That's good.
Some definite high points, which we're gonna hit for sure, and very few that really tick me off or really I thought were absolutely duds. But a lot of professionalism, I guess.
Okay, there you
Gold
go.
star for attendance.
Yeah.
Not as many people leaving for side projects.
Yeah, I think with they kind of found a way around that. Like it seems like nowadays, like a lot of the cast members are just able to work on side things, but still be a part of the cast. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
Ego has a show coming up
Mm-hmm.
soon on and it seems like I've always seen a lot of the other cast members like Feynman and whatnot in commercials, and
Yeah.
even Heidi Gardner was on that Apple Plus show with Shrinking, or I believe it was like with
Jason Segel, yeah.
Jason
Mm-hmm.
Segel. Yeah. So like it seems like going off to doing your own thing and then coming back doesn't seem to be as big a issue as it once was.
Yeah. I think that's the benefit of them having such a large cast now, and I'm sure that's part of the rationale for having like over a dozen people on the cast. Um, the downside is that people don't get quite as many chances to shine on the show.
Yeah, well, we'll,
Um,
we'll talk about that.
yeah. So,
All right.
you know what? Before we get too deep into it, let me just do a quick refresher, and I'm just going to run through the shows of the season. We had 20 episodes this season. It was cut a little short because we had the writer's strike and
Right.
all that. But they got started up on October 14th of 2023. Episode 1, we had Pete Davidson with musical guest Ice Spice. Episode 2, Bad Bunny was the host of musical guest. Episode 3, Nate Bargatze and Foo Fighters. Episode 4, Timothy Chalamet and Boy Genius. Episode 5, Jason Momoa returning to the show, along with Tate McRae. Then Emma Stone and Noah Kahan. Episode 7 was Adam Driver and Olivia Rodrigo. Episode 8, Kate McKinnon and Billie Eilish. Episode 9 was Jacob Elordi and Renee Rapp. Episode 10 was Dakota Johnson and Justin Timberlake. Episode 11 was Io Adibri and Jennifer Lopez. Episode 12 was Shane Gillis with 21 Savage. Episode 13 was Sydney Sweeney with Casey Musgraves. Episode 14 was Josh Brolin with Ariana Grande. Episode 15, Rami Youssef and Travis Scott. Episode 16, Kristen Wiig and Ray. Episode 17, Ryan Gosling and Chris Stapleton. Episode 18, Dua Lipa, host and musical guest. Episode 19, Maya Rudolph and Vampire Weekend. And episode 20 was Jake Gyllenhaal and Sabrina Carpenter. And we covered that one just last week.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
who's popping out there? Who do you think acquitted themselves well? Who were you like really stoked to see?
Well, I'll go first. So, I mean, I don't know. As far as the shows goes, I thought most of them, for the most part, were pretty good. The ones that really stood out to me, the Kristen Wiig episode. I honestly think that was the best one of the season. Had a lot going for it. We could talk about it
Mm-hmm.
later, but it had a lot of sketches that I thought really hit, and not too many misses. And plus, the musical guest was strong. Also, a shocker to me, and what it sounds like most of everybody else that I've talked to on Twitter, the Nate Bargatze episode, strangely strong,
Mm-hmm.
like a
Mm-hmm.
lot better than people thought it'd be. Um, and also, I would say, who else? I would say the Josh Brolin episode I found really interesting, just because, like Josh Brolin, he's kind of known as like a dramatic actor, and he
Mm-hmm.
kind of has that look like he plays like a military man or a cop or a cowboy in every movie he's in.
Or military man, cop, cowboy.
Yes, military cop cowboy coming
Yes.
coming to theaters this summer.
Or
Uh,
Galactic Tyrant.
yes, of course, Purple Galactic Tyrant.
Or
With
young Tommy Lee Jones.
yeah, exactly. He looks like that rough and tumble guy, and he's an older man too. But you kind of forget that he's also been in a number of Coen brother movies, and the
Mm-hmm.
Coen brothers can get kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
And with this episode, he showed that he can get weird too. Like especially when he in the monologue where it was him stripping down to his skivvies, getting into a tub of ice water. You're like, oh wow, this guy's a bit of a weirdo. And the rest of the sketch was like
I
kind of
think I've
showed us.
forgotten that. Wow.
Yeah, remember he got in his underwear and
I don't think I remembered that until you brought it up, but yeah.
he got down to his underwear and got into a tub of freezing cold ice water. And I was like, all right, but yeah, like that kind of I think that surprised a lot of people. It's like, oh, this guy's a lot weirder than we thought. I thought that was an
Hmm.
interesting choice. Yeah, so like those are my thoughts off the dome. I'll say.
Mm. Dennis, what about you?
I loved all those. I liked Wigs especially because I was anticipating another dreary greatest hits kind of thing. I love
Mm.
Wig, but she loves to bring back her old characters, and they
Hmm.
did only one, I think. I think
Yeah,
they
well,
did Aunt Linda,
they did. Well, I mean,
and
technically
yeah,
there was another one during the retirement party, but that character
okay,
was.
yep, oh yeah, yeah.
But that's
Um, but the writing was really strong on that one, and I thought she got to act, and it was just really much better than I was expecting. Um, I loved the Bargatze. I loved Io Debris.
Hmm.
I think she is one of those hosts who uh, sometimes even if a host is really good, they're just kind of doing really well at what they're told, and you have a sense that she came in with characters of her own,
Hmm.
and it just really energized stuff. And I would throw Bad Bunny on there. I thought he was just a charmer and a half. I really had fun on that
Ooh,
episode.
yeah. I remember being pretty disappointed in the Bad Bunny episode.
Hmm.
hmm.
I felt I think a big thing for me was I felt it was just too obvious that English was his second language, so that gave him kind of a barrier. I thought so. I remember being kind of disappointed in that episode overall, and I don't think I liked the Kristen Wiig episode as much as you guys did.
That's a
So
shocker. All right.
yeah,
Well, what are
but
your
I
thoughts
mean,
on it?
I was honestly I was kind of tired of Kristen Wiig by the time she was done on the show, just because her last few years on the show it was pushing her so hard that I
Hmm.
got sick of her, quite frankly.
Oh,
So
burnt out.
yeah, I burnt out on Wig.
Okay, burnt wigs. It
Wigged
Yeah.
happens.
out.
So I mean, I think,
Ha, hey oh.
but um, I think Ryan Gosling is a pretty solid host, except for his tendency to break, which gets a little old over the course of an episode when he's doing it in like 4 or 5 sketches.
Yeah, it's weird
Um,
because like that's a thing. Everybody was complaining about when Jimmy Fallon did it, but like he did it. Gosling did it throughout this episode. Everybody really seemed to like it. Everybody seemed to find it a lot more
well, it's more
charming.
charming when Gosling does it because it's real. um,
Okay, there it is. Yeah, and also, I mean,
I
we could
mean,
talk. I mean,
Jimmy Fallon is the king of fake laughter. Let's face it.
yeah, and I mean, we could talk about it. We'll probably talk about it later. But that Beavis and Butthead sketch, like, I think when we talked about it on this episode, we didn't see it being like the juggernaut that it
It
became.
hadn't
Like,
officially gone viral yet, yeah. And
yeah,
and then like even at the opening of the Fall Guy, he and Mikey Day were Beavis and Butthead and on the red carpet, which was pretty funny.
yeah. I mean, as of right now, that video has like 15 million views on YouTube. It's like it's the
My
most
God.
watched. It's like the most watched sketch of the season by far.
Mhm.
Wow.
I'm blown away by that.
That is something else because it's I'll be honest, that's not even my favorite sketch from that episode.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I like the sketch; it's perfectly fine. It's just
Yeah, I
yeah,
honestly I
but
think it kind of falls into the Lisa from Temecula trap where like
mhm.
somebody breaks so hard that
Yeah,
like people just kind of elevate the sketch because of that.
I think that's
Mhm.
part of it. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, a lot of the times the sketches go that become viral are they do feature somebody breaking in some fashion. So yeah, so I like Gosling. I enjoyed Josh Brolin. I think Jake Gyllenhaal has become a really solid host.
He has for
Um,
sure. Like I'm sure they'll bring him
yeah,
back again.
I was rewatching some Emma Stone and Adam Driver sketches in preparation for this week, and they're both really good. Like what I guess I should explain like what I do just to make it easier for me when for the end of the season when I have to pick out uh, favorite sketches. What I do is, assuming I remember every week,
Mhm.
is uh, I make a private YouTube playlist, and I just put all my favorites of season 49 in
Smart.
there as we go.
Mm.
So I'm just doing it. And it helps break down this humongous task gradually. And so I checked this morning, and I've got apparently I picked 35 sketches,
Good
and that's
lord.
including like weekend update segments and a few monologues. one of them is hidden now, so I have no idea which one has been hidden.
Ooh,
Maybe a music rights thing.
secret sketch.
Yeah, it says one unavailable video is hidden. I'm just like, okay, well, I wonder what that was.
I'm sure it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was the best of all. Probably music rights thing. Who knows? But
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought the season was. I thought it was okay.
yeah,
I mean, like, part of me was kind of hoping that this would be the season that we would get like one of the cast members to have like a really big breakout moment, like
Yeah.
sort of in this. I mean, and one did, maybe two did, but I still think
was
we're
one of
still
them
waiting.
Chloe Trost?
Yes, one of them was Chloe Trost.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I
I,
thought.
that's okay. Yeah, but like I'm still waiting for like the same way that Bowen sort of burst out on the scene once with that iceberg sketch where everybody was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
like who is that guy?" And like
Right.
like I was kind of waiting for some like a moment like that to happen in this season, and with the exception of Trost, and you could say maybe Dismukes if you want, but yeah, that didn't really happen. Everybody else kind of was just like playing their parts, just kind of going right down the middle. Like, even Sarah Sherman didn't like her sketches or her characters didn't go like as crazy gonzo as her character Sarah Squirm would
Mhm.
normally
Mhm.
go. Like, she played like a lot of normal kind of characters.
Well, I think part of it is people have gotten more used to her.
Yeah,
So she's not going to be quite as surprising as she was like a year or two ago,
that's true. I
where it
mean, she
was
was
like
she
we've
did she
never
was
had anybody like this on SNL before. So
that's true. I mean, she was decapitated twice in the season, and that's
yeah,
fine. But yeah, it's like so far I would say this episode was just kind of right down the middle, and I also I they I hope they fix this next season, but like the cold opens are are usually like the weakest part of the
Mhm.
show,
Yeah.
especially when they do it do something political. Like, honestly, like the best cold opens have been like the non-political ones, like the one for Mother's Day and like the
Mhm.
one for the Miss Rafferty with on the Ryan Gosling. Like, those were pretty
Right,
good.
right.
But like whenever like I think they really need a writer that can do political comedy really well. I think that's their one like Achilles heel, because
Yeah,
I
I,
just
I
think.
feel like they have been kind of weak on the political satire this season. Although I will say, on my best of list, I had the State of the Union cold open,
Ooh.
where Scarlett Johansson came on as Katie Britt doing the
Oh, okay.
Republican rebuttal, and I was like, "Yep, that's still pretty solid." They did a nice parody of that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. There's a few like exceptions here and there, but for the
yeah,
most part, whenever I mean we've talked about it on the podcast, like whenever the cold open comes, it's usually like, all right, let's get through this so we can get to the real
yeah,
meat
really.
of the show.
That is literally the only political thing that was on my
Mhm.
list outside of
Yeah,
like weekend update stuff.
exactly. Like the cold open, like I said before, it's the ugly pancake of the stack of flapjacks that is SNL.
It's a perfect metaphor. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, should we dive into favorite sketches?
Yeah.
Sure. You want to start at 3 and go to the number 1? We'll go around. Go around the
Okay. Yeah.
horn.
Sure. Sure. Do you want me to start, or should we have our guest Dennis Perkins start out?
Let's be a gracious host and have the
Ah.
guest and have our guest start.
No pressure, Dennis.
That's fine. So the concept is starting. If I were ranking these 1, 2, 3, this would be number 3.
Yes.
Number three,
Okay.
and then if we match up, if it matches up to
Yeah.
either our number three choice or somewhere higher up on the list, then we will say, yeah,
Okay.
that's number such and so on my list, and then
All
we will
right.
discuss.
Okay. I would, from the Nate Bargatze episode, pick the cooking show episode, sketch
Ooh.
rather, just because I think it's the joke is very very standard stuff. It's like a soul food cooking show, and one of the chefs is black, and the other one is Nate Bargatze, and the judges are gushing and rhapsodizing about one of the the plates. One of them says, "This is the culture," and it turns out, of
Mhm.
course, that Nate was the one. He's like this very apologetic Southern white chef, and
Right.
it was the perfect match for the host's demeanor and persona, and it was just written it gave everybody, Keenan as one of the judges had he killed obviously with his reactions, but Bargatze's, it was just a perfect. I just had a sense that they had him in the writers' room and they thought, yeah, this is having him be somebody who's exceptionally good at something he should not be good at and being called out in public and apologizing every single. He just. Somebody says, "How did you do this?" He said, "I just tried my best. I'm sorry." It's just I thought it was great.
That one.
I like the sketch quite a bit. I remember it's a sketch where like you could tell like they knew what Nate's like energy was, and they wrote a sketch around it. Like I mean, I mean, part of me feels like I wish they had done that with another host, the Dakota Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
But like this one, I think they really got it. They're like, yeah, his energy is here, so we need to kind of write a sketch that meets him at that energy and plays up his strengths. And like, yeah, the fact that he was like this white guy cooking Southern black food, and he understood the optics of how that looked, and him just apologizing, saying, "No, please don't send me to." I think they wanted to put like a like a HBU jacket on or something like that. And
Yeah,
like,
he
no,
was.
like, yeah, it's like, yeah, no, please just get this off me, please.
Punky Johnson was another judge, and she was a celebrity cook, and he was going to do like a guest residency on her show called The Black Kitchen, and he's just like, "Oh, please no."
Yeah.
It wasn't anything, especially original or pointed, but it was the perfect use of a host, and it seemed SNL just understanding what it had and using it perfectly.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah. This sketch, by the way, written by Mikey Day, Allison Gates, Streeter Seidel, and Celeste Yin. And yeah, that's a thing that I like is I enjoy it when they have sketches that are based around human behavior. And, you put somebody in an awkward situation and you watch them try to navigate or dig their way out of it. And that's something that the Chef Show sketch has in common with my number 3 choice. And my number 3 is from the Ryan Gosling episode, and it is The Engagement, where Ryan Gosling has just gotten engaged to, I believe it was Chloe Fineman.
Yes.
And when Chloe goes into the kitchen with Ego, Ryan confesses to Andrew Dismukes. He says, like, "Hey, I don't really want to be engaged. I just did it because she was upset about our dog dying, and it was a good way to make her feel better.
I've made a huge mistake.
I've made a huge mistake. I'm going to run away and leave the country." And Dismukes is like, oh, no. Why are you telling me this? I just met you. What's going on?
No, you're in this with me, man.
Yeah. At one point, Dismukes says he's got a very elaborate plan of how he's gonna. I don't remember what he was gonna, but
he's skipping the country and he's got like a suitcase there.
Dismukes says, "I am not a part of this," and Gosling just comes back, "You are the main part of it."
and he's when the women are coming back in the room, he's trying to sort of awkwardly lead. Like give Ryan an opening so he can address the subject and maybe get out of this before it's too late. And he's like, "Well, legally you could call it off now and you'd be free and clear. There'd be no consequences," which is just like the most horrible thing to say when you've just learned somebody was getting engaged 5 minutes before.
So now he looks like the jerk.
Yeah, I really love this one. I've got the writers here. There was Mike DiCenzo, Jimmy Fowley, Jake Nordwin, and Sierra O'Sullivan. So yeah, I really like this one. I got a kick out of it. It was very funny.
Yeah, no, this is a strong sketch. I think at one point Ryan Gosling thinking he was going to get like facial restructions. He's like, "I found a guy on Groupon."
Yeah, and he played it. He played it with the right intensity. He only broke a little bit, so it didn't really kill the momentum of the sketch.
He's a giggle puss, that guy.
He is. I mean, it's kind of charming when he does it. He's just so damn handsome. You'll forgive him anyway.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, the sketch. Sorry.
Yeah. No, well, I didn't realize until we're talking about this right now that another one of it didn't make my list, but another
Hmm.
kind of favorite sketch in the last episode was almost a complete rehash of this with
Hmm.
the dad wants a cookie,
Mm.
where
It kind of was, yeah.
Dismukes is the boyfriend who's come over for dinner, and Jake Gyllenhaal's the dad, and he eats a cookie when he's not supposed to when the women are out of the room, and he makes him swear to secrecy. And
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really put those two together until I was rewatching the Gosling sketch earlier today, and I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of a similar thing, but they varied it up enough that it didn't really seem like a rehash.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like Ryan Gosling didn't shove his fingers down Dismuke's throat.
Right.
And
I mean,
I did like the
he did kiss him on the forehead though.
he
So
did. That was a hilarious way. And I also like the part in Gill when Dismukes is talking to Gyllenhaal saying and Dismukes says you're covered in cookie crumbs. Like of course he's gonna know something's up. Gyllenhaal said like, "Bitch, I'm always covered in cookie crumbs." That is
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a different intensity too. Yeah, because Gyllenhaal's character was a lot more angry, I suppose.
yeah.
So.
He was a lot more Nightcrawler, very unhinged.
Yeah, he was intense. Yeah, and matched their energy well. So, all right. Well, okay, no repeats yet. Darren, what's your number three?
My number three, I'm gonna go with Little Orphan Cassidy
Yeah.
from the Timothy Chalamet episode. I mean, I this was a fantastic sketch. It was a great premise and a great way to sort of have your brand new cast member sort of make their big debut. Because, like, I mean,
Hmm.
it's Chloe Trost's sketch to pretty much anchor, and she really does it well. And we get to learn that she has this kind of secret weapon of hers, like this singing voice that
Hmm.
sounds pretty
Hmm.
fantastic. Like I think when we first heard it, I think a few people thought that it was like a recording or something like that, where it's like, oh, is
Hmm.
this like a backing track? And
Yeah.
then like people realized, oh no, that's her. She actually can sing quite well.
She's got pipes.
The thing is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I rewatched it today and I'd forgotten that she doesn't just have pipes. She starts off in this crazy low kind of blues baritone,
Yeah.
yeah,
She's
and
like,
it's just
what
so
is going on?
incongruous to
Yeah.
the little orphan girl.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it about?
That was in my YouTube playlist of favorite sketches of the season. It didn't make my list, but it's a great solid sketch. I just looked it up. It's Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel, and Chloe Trost.
Yeah,
So yeah, just one of those wonderfully bizarre sketches with just all sorts of weird tangents, and Streeter and Mikey are both really good at that. So it's right in their wheelhouse. Apparently, this was pretty deep into the rundown of the show. It's like the next to last sketch of the night because I guess since Chloe's carrying it, basically, I guess it
right.
wasn't too much a trial by fire. It was like, well, we'll put it deep in the show and just
Yeah.
and see how the new girl does.
In case this flops.
Yeah,
But
hey,
yeah,
Wayne's World started out at the end of the show, so
that's true. That's true. Some of the greats starts at the end. But yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a great sketch. Thought it was a great way that Chloe Chose anchored it. Because yeah, at first you think the joke is she's gonna sing poorly because
mhm.
she sings that really deep baritone, but then she starts to sing really well, and you're like, oh wow, she can really sing. And even like
Mhm.
Timothy Chalamet's lines as Mr. Moon
Yeah.
are pretty funny too. As they have the back and forth, and we learn more and more about
He's like,
Cassidy, and
wait a
she
minute, you're 26?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. She
You've got college loans?
Yeah, and like we learn like all these like horrible things about her, and of course at the end it had that nice little button with Molly as
Mhm.
the head of the orphanage, like protecting her kids, telling her to get out.
Yeah, get out.
Yeah, I thought that was a
Yeah.
great way to end it. This is a strong
Mhm.
sketch for sure.
Yeah.
So
And so many SNL sketches, they tend to just they peter out or they don't have a good strong finish, and this one really did.
Mhm.
yes,
So
I mean
it's nice to see. It's nice when they stick the landing.
yeah, that's the other thing too. Like a sketch with a solid ending. Like you said, like
Mhm.
we've seen so many sketches where it just ends with it. Oh, there's actually a commercial for something else, or it
Yeah.
Yes.
just, or
That's
it
become a
just
real crutch this season.
oof, boof, or
You
it,
know, Dennis, you
Hmm.
were saying something in one of your recent columns for Paste that you think that's integrated advertising.
Well, it happened. I mean, it definitely happened a few. I'm going to say 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
that it was in the news that Lorne had made a deal with the sponsors and with NBC. Theoretically, it was because he wanted to front load a lot more sketches up top without commercials busting up the
Mm-hmm.
momentum. And
Mm-hmm.
so he would accept paid product placement. And
Interesting.
the product placement definitely, I mean, it's out there. I mean, it's definitely something that is in place. Sometimes it's
I
a
remember
lot
one
more
episode where there were
obvious.
like 2 or 3 mentions of Uber in sketches,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And, they always have done that sort of thing, but, there are some, I remember one relatively amusing sketch about that Arby's commercial, that we have the meats thing.
Yes.
And it was funny enough, but the sketch kept going into not just, Arby's product placement, here's the logo, they're sitting in an Arby's, but it kept referring to specific specials, menu items, and price points all through the sketch.
Mm.
And it was just like one of those where you're like, okay, whoever's in charge of the equilibrium between, economic necessity and artistic integrity needed to recalibrate that one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something they're doing, and I do appreciate that it does allow for, after the monologue, they generally have 3 or 4 sketches in a row.
Like they go to a pre-tape, then we have our first sketch, and it does give the show even more of a structure than it had before. So so it's deal with the devil, I guess.
Yep.
All right.
Very
Dennis, do we?
Oh, no.
Let's move on to your number 2.
No,
right.
that was my 3. Let's go on to number 2.
Okay, number 2. I would go to the Kristen Wiig episode, and I will take the go-karts episode, go-karts sketch.
Oh yeah. Yes.
A masterful, masterfully constructed exercise in underplaying from Wiig and James Austin Johnson, who is exceptional at that sort of thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the premise, parents, they've taken their kids, although you only see one kid at the start of the sketch, to a day at the amusement park, and they're having a great time. And the parents at the beginning of the race just kind of dropped the idea that, we're going to have a great time. We're going to ride these go-karts, and then we have some really bad news to tell you. And it kind of goes from there. And again, it's all based on kind of strange social awkwardness and familial awkwardness, but it's all rests on James Austin Johnson and Wiig just parceling out this each successive reference to the awful thing, without giving anything away, but doing it in complete deadpan. And you have a sense these two people, they really do have something awful to tell. You kind of get clues along the way where they call a third person. They're going to bring her down to the amusement park to kind of fill in the gaps, but you never quite learn what it is, but you definitely learn a lot about those two characters. And there's a beautiful reveal in the middle of the sketch where Dismukes is their teenage son, and he's getting more and more desperate to know what the bad thing is. And at one point they pan over after James Austin Johnson mentions, and you, honey, would you prefer to hear it now or after? And you realize they pan over, and Chloe Trost is sitting off camera in another go-kart and has been listening to the whole thing without us knowing. And she's got a birthday crown on her head.
She's literally the whole time. Yeah, that was a really strong sketch, and I think I must have forgotten to add favorites from the Kristen Wiig episode to my list, because I think I definitely would have added that onto my list of favorites of the season, and possibly another one from the same episode, the secretary sketch. I like that one as well.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the Kristen Wiig episode had some bangers in it.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying.
All right.
And
I definitely would have included go-karts and maybe secretaries. So that's on me, but I'm glad you remembered it.
Outstanding. I will just, this is the point where I will just kind of make my pitch for saying that James Austin Johnson has become utterly indispensable. I would say along the lines of a Phil Hartman at this point. Just kind of that versatility and that ability to slip into a character or imbue a character with an inner life immediately, and
Yeah,
it's invaluable. And
yeah,
he's hilarious. Obviously, he's a great impressionist, and he can do like the usual SNL stuff. But you throw him in a business suit, throw him in a game show host, throw him into something,
hmm
and he brings you some different color every time, and it's
that's true. Yeah,
love it.
he
Yeah.
he always kills it.
Yeah, it's weird to think like the guy that played the dad in the go-kart sketch is the same guy that was Snake Eyes
Yeah,
in the
Mhm.
Gyllenhaal episode. Hush your
Yeah,
bet. Like, yeah,
we'll get
that is
there.
true. Like, yeah, like I will agree with you there. I think James Austin Johnson is definitely like he's definitely become one of the stronger cast members who's like has like he's super versatile. He can do like a little bit of everything. He has strong impressions. Like he's really kind of proven himself to be like a main go-to guy on the show for sure.
yeah, yeah. He's if there's anybody who's the current glue, I would say, yeah, you can make a good case that it's James Austin Johnson. I think it's also um, Andrew Dismukes has developed into a unique voice on the
Yes.
show,
Definitely.
and like his sketches have a distinctive feel to him. He, by the way, co-wrote the go kart sketch with Will Steven, and yeah, his voice comes through really clearly in it. And I'm not saying I love every single Dismuke sketch, but they're always something different from what you usually get,
Hmm.
and I appreciate that. I want as many unique voices on the show as possible, and Dismukes is definitely bringing that.
It seems weird to say. Just it's like SNL influences are kind of mutating rapidly, but it seems like he's got maybe he not grew up because they're
Hmm
approximately the same age, maybe, but he sees what Tim Robinson was doing and
hmm
wants to bring some of that in there, that intense, unexpected weirdness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
He definitely has that vibe. And like I actually remember hearing listening to being interviewed on our good friend John Schneider's podcast, the SNL Saturday Night Network podcast, and Dismuke said that Will Forte was a huge influence
Hmm.
on him. He's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
you can
love
see
Will
that.
Forte.
hmm
He
yeah.
was
I can
like
see that.
he said like Forte was my guy, and you could
Okay,
that
gotcha.
definitely you could see that when he performed in Rights.
Yeah, yeah. He's like one of Forte's comedic children.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I guess it's my turn again. I'm
Yes.
going to go with something we saw just last week, but it really hit me where I live. NYPD press conference,
Yeah.
like the Jake
Mm,
Gyllenhaal episode,
Love it.
where he just talks about introducing legislation to stop punching character actors in the face. And I know Dennis, I as I recall from your review, you really love this one too.
I did. Yeah.
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 So I
Again,
mean, this is
it's right in my wheelhouse too. It's almost
yeah,
like they wrote
same.
it for us. So,
Yeah,
but
same.
apart from that, it's also a very
You
well
get
done.
mentions of Stephen Root and Judy Greer and Steve Buscemi and Paul Giamatti, and I'm in
Yeah,
heaven, man.
William Fichtner.
Yeah,
Yes.
Throw it in there.
yeah,
Tobolowsky,
yeah.
of course, the great Tobolowsky.
Tobolowsky.
Walton Goggins.
But is Paul Giamatti a character actor at this point in his life?
Well, he's not Brad. I'm not saying he's Brad Pitt. Uh, it's just great stuff. It was just so wonderfully bizarre. I love the left turn it took. Um, Gyllenhaal's doing great work, just as the New York police chief. Um, I mean, that really enhanced it. Very funny writing by Mike DiCenzo, Jake Nordwin, and Josh Patton.
Yeah.
This was, maybe it's recency bias working in action here, but I don't think so. I think I would like
No,
this sketch just as much as if it was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So
No,
I'm going to stand by this pick.
yeah. No, it's a solid pick. And John Hamm had some good lines in it too there.
I mean, yeah. Also, you give us a cameo from John Hamm,
yeah,
who has to live somewhere close to 30 Rock by how often they call him in on short notice. I love me some John Hamm. I want a dozen sequels to Confess Fletch.
seriously, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've rallied on this before, but
Yeah.
it's just not right how that movie was buried.
No,
I like
it was literally
yeah,
in theaters for like a weekend, and then it
unbelievable.
just
Streaming
gone.
on Paramount Plus, though.
Yes, absolutely. It's bizarre.
I liked, and again, this is another example of the sketch being written exactly for me. But talking about character actors and that guy phenomenon, and the rules he had for the threat
Yes.
level for different actors is like
It was very well thought out, very thoroughly.
yeah.
Yeah,
If you've
it
ever
wasn't just
played a girlfriend on Seinfeld or a boyfriend on Sex and the City, you've got to watch
yeah.
out.
If you've ever had a 3-episode arc on a show where the name is all initials,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then they throw the titles up on the screen.
And we've asked Stephen Root to shelter in place.
Yeah. As well he should. He's a national treasure.
Yes.
I just finished doing. My wife and I just finished doing a rewatch, just because this is the kind of people we are, of news radio. Good God! Three absolute assassins on that show. Just
Phil Hartman,
Stephen Dave Root. Foley, and Stephen Root. Just like boom, boom, boom. It's not fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Solid.
I've mentioned this on the show many a time before, but I got to meet Dave Foley years ago at it, and we were at a concert at a bar at Maxwell's in Hoboken, for New York, New Jersey folks, and got to spend a good part of the evening talking to Dave Foley. And at one point we went up to the bar together, and I said, like, okay, I'm just going to gush for a few seconds, and then I'm going to go back to treating you like a normal guy. And I'm like, news radio is one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. I've seen episodes half a dozen times. They still make me laugh just as hard. And he was like, oh, well, thank you very much. and he was wonderfully Canadian, which is exactly
that's the biggest compliment you could pay anyone.
Yeah, he was like, when he introduced himself to us after we were like chatting with him a bit in line, he was like, oh, hi, I'm Dave. And I was just like, I love that you don't assume that we know who you are, even though we do.
There's just to go off on a tangent, because hey,
this is the show for it.
Yeah, okay. Paul F. Tompkins tells a story about, because he had a very, very minor role in Magnolia, which ended up being cut out, and he was there at the table read, and he said he sat down, and Tom Cruise sat down next to him and did that whole thing. It's like, hey, I'm Tom. And you have a sense that it was a very different than a Dave Foley. And Paul Tompkins like, oh, are you Tom, the most famous person in the world?
Yeah. I feel like what Tom Cruise does that is probably more of a power move.
I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Tom.
I'm Tom.
You may call me
I'm
Tom.
Normal, like you. I'm not in a crazy cult. Which he is not, lawyers.
He is not.
He is not.
Oh, please, no! Don't. The non-pro lawyers can't handle.
Mainly because we don't have any non-pro lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. We know one guy that works at H&R Block, and that's about it.
Yeah. Which I just checked. Not a law firm.
What?
Not a law firm.
Damn it!
Oh no.
So we're really screwed.
Oh no! Oh God! Oh jeez.
Yeah, and they've got a grudge against me since I went over to TurboTax a few years back. It's a whole thing.
You'll rue the day you left H&R Block, John Trumbull.
Yeah. Anyway, I like this. We've got 5 sketches, all bangers. We haven't had a repeat yet. No crossover yet. Darren, what's your number 2 choice?
My number 2 choice, an episode from what I still think is the strongest episode. I'm gonna go with the Jumanji sketch.
Yeah.
from the Kristen Wiig episode. I loved the escalation of it. I loved the performances in it. I liked as soon as we see, it's a bunch of couples playing a board game. One of them is not into it because she doesn't want to get Jumanji'd. And the moment she says that, we all know what she's talking about. Like if you're an older person, like Gen X, like us, you know it because because we grew up with the Robin Williams Jumanji. But if you're younger, you know what she's talking about because you grew up with the Rock, Dwayne, or Kevin Hart Jumanji. So either way, like all generations.
Jack Black and
the Jack Black one. Yeah, so like any generation, you know what she means when she says Jumanji. And like I thought the performances were strong, and it just escalates and keeps building and building while she gives like these kind of reasonable, thought out concerns. But of course, they're based in madness because you can't be stuck into a board game. But they're but she believes them, and they sound plausible and reasonable, even though they're based in madness. And I liked how like she kind of when her energy goes up and up, all the other people in the cast, their energy goes up and up. Especially Dismukes, who
Yeah.
I feel like his performance was like kind of matching Kristen Wiig. Like he was kind of giving Wiggs a run for her money. Like his performance was elevating with her performance, which I really liked. Like the fact
Mhm.
when she goes like, are you talking about going into Jumanji? Because Jumanji comes out. Like him repeating that, I thought was fantastic. And of course,
Yeah.
the way it all ended with them getting Jumanji'd into the Ticket to Ride game, and Will Forte coming out talking like an old
Yes.
timey prospector, but dressed as a conductor. I thought this sketch was fantastic. I really dug this sketch quite a bit.
Yeah. That was a really good one. Written by Andrew Dismukes, Aisha Ward, and August White. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's August with an E at the end. So,
right.
If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize.
So
but
sorry.
Yeah, good sketch.
Yeah.
Good.
Dismukes has a. Oh yeah,
go ahead.
Well, he has. Just hearing that he had read, because I wasn't entirely sure. You have a sense of ones that he had a hand in, but that he's written he writes so many where his character, in the entire scene starts off with this veneer of kind of suburban politeness, and as soon as it gets scratched, he just reveals. It just bubbles out of him this madness.
The insanity flows out. Yeah, the dam bursts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
Well, I just like the detail that he does concede after Will Forte's the game starts, I think, smoking or something. He does concede that he did buy Ticket to Ride at an estate sale of a spooky old lady.
yeah.
He's like, all right, my bad, guys. We got Jumanji.
Yeah. This was a sketch, as I recall, like the first time I watched it, I was so on, and I was like, oh yeah, this is funny, but so much of it is just repeating the word Jumanji over and over. And then when I watched it a second time before we recorded the podcast, it grew on me. And that so rarely happens. I was like, no, this is actually a really solid sketch, and I like what they're doing here, and it builds really well. And I was pleasantly surprised by it, and it's so rare that an SNL sketch actually grows on me. So that's a really strong one.
Yeah, like a lot of the sketches in the Kristen Wiig episode did grow on me too. Like the final sketch, La Maison du Bang. Like when I first saw it, I was like, "What is this weirdness?" But then, like I rewatched it again for our episode, and I found it like a lot more charming than I did the first time around.
Could you describe that again, just to refresh our memories?
That's the one. It's the French variety show from the 70s.
Okay. Oh yes. All right.
House of Bang, or in France, La Maison du Bang.
Yeah, and Kristen, she was like living in the studio after her guest spot, and
yeah, like I found it more charming the second time. Like even Kristen Wiig, where she was this character just doing with her goofy gyrations, and je dance. Like
a lot of hip music.
Yeah. Like I found that more. I was like, all right. I was jibing with it a lot more the second time around. So yeah, sketches sometimes will do that. Sometimes you you watch them the second time, you're like, oh, all right, now it's hitting.
All right. Well, we've gone through our number 3 choices, our number 2 choices. Let's just do a quick review before we dive into number ones, because I feel like we haven't had any overlap so far, but I feel like when we get to number 1, I feel like there's going to be some overlap.
If all 3 of us have the same number 1, that's going to be madness.
Oh Darren, I'm guessing that you and I have the same number 1, and maybe Dennis does too.
Okay.
So I'm going to build the suspense a little bit. So our number 3s, we got Chef Show from Dennis. For me, we've got The Engagement from the Ryan Gosling episode. Darren picked Little Orphan Cassidy. For number 2, Dennis has Go-Karts. I picked the NYPD press conference, and Darren picked Jumanji for number 1. So let's dive in.
Oh my God.
Number 1.
All right, Dennis,
what do you got for us, sir?
There's so much pressure now that I feel like it's like a magic show saying, we've never worked with each other before. So all right, you guys say you probably have the same one. I don't know. For me, this was a clear winner. So I don't know what this is going to say about anything. It's going to be Make Your Own Kind of Music from the Emma Stone episode.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So not. All right.
That was a good choice. That was not my choice.
Not my choice.
That is a solid choice, sir.
I loved this so much. First of all, Emma Stone. I know I didn't pick her episode because I thought the writing was a little shaky for this season, but she's an all-star. She's
she
a
really is.
bright, shining star in everything she does, and especially on SNL. She could have owned this show had life turned a slightly different way. She can do it all, and this is, again, it's a sketch that kind of was, it seems like it was written for me, and maybe that's why I responded it so much. The premise is, and God bless it, I had absolutely no idea where it was going. I thought it was going to be because it flashes back to a recording session where Mama Cass, formerly of the Mamas and the Papas, is making her first solo album. And she's singing, and this is Chloe Trost in a muumuu, and she's singing, really singing the hell out of this wonderful song that I've always loved. It's Make Your Own Kind of Music. It's kind of like a rah-rah, believe in yourself, you know, kind of beautiful song. And
and it's a song that's had this weird comeback in pop culture recently.
And that's kind of, but not in a, anyway, okay, I can get through this. The turn is that her manager, who is played by Emma Stone as a guy with a John Waters mustache and a white afro and a leisure suit, comes in and is in a gravelly voice and is telling her it's a beautiful song. It's going to be number one. It's going to play everywhere all over the country. And then people are going to forget about it for like 40 years. And then it's going to come back. And the way she predicts rightly that it comes back is as an ironically juxtaposed horror and action movie trailer song. And Mama Cass is baffled by this because it's not a concept that they had at that time. And it's completely antithetical to her song. And Emma Stone has her re-sing the song, and Trost re-sings it every single time, while Emma Stone acts out these movie trailers. And one is a zombie movie, and one is kind of a Tarantino-esque movie about a downtrodden hooker who takes sword revenge on the rich guys who've abused her. And another one is a Joan of Arc comes back from the dead and kills everyone movie. And that one is sung, she says, Mama's not getting it, but she says, no, try this one. We'll try this one. Sing it like a haunted child. And she kind of slows it down. And the thing is that Emma Stone's manager is acting it out every time with such gusto and such. And the fact that it has an ending as well. The twist is that this is a trailer for a movie, a horror-themed movie about Mama Cass just called Mama, where she hates this idea that her manager is pitching her and goes on a bloody tear of revenge. I thought it was a perfect example of the sketch comedy form. I thought Trost was it was the perfect showcase for her. I thought Emma Stone can do no wrong, and she was going for it with everything she had. Even, who is it, Mikey and Bowen and Dismukes, they were three record execs who inexplicably got really into acting out the parts in the manager's weird movie reenactments. Everything about it worked for me. I thought it was perfect, and there you go. That's my number one.
That's a great choice. It's this, by the way, written by Mikey Day, Mike DiCenzo, Jake Nordwin, and Streeter Seidel. You might have noticed some of the same names are popping up a lot on these sketches.
No, it's a pattern. But yeah, I mean, that's a great pick, Dennis, because like I did enjoy that sketch quite a bit. I will agree with you. The Emma Stone episode, maybe it wasn't as strong as I'd hoped it'd be, or maybe a lot of people thought it'd be, but I knew that wasn't because of her, because she really, she gives 110%. Aside from like this sketch, and I'm gonna say the Question Quest quiz show where she wins a tortoise, that was a good sketch too.
Question Quest and Make Your Own Kind of Music, and another one from the Emma Stone episode, The Fully Naked in New York. Those were all on my YouTube playlist. And I considered all of them.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I love them make your own kind of music because, like, if you watch it, like, this is the one. It seems like this was a sketch that Emma Stone was really looking forward to playing because she really gets into it. She really
Mhm.
like she's like swaggering in and the character. It's like, hey, what did it do, pretty
Yeah.
mama? Like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And like
She
when it
didn't have to go that hard, but thank
yeah
God that she did.
yeah, and like when it comes to reenacting the slow motion part, she really gets into it too.
Mhm.
And like it is interesting how it's kind of it plays on this trope that I've noticed where yeah, like a lot of movie trailers do a thing where they take a cheery song from the past and they
Yeah.
slow it down to make it sound more
We
creepy. Like
Yeah, we
I
slow it down. Now it sounds eerie and
yeah,
creepy, and
like
yeah, it's become very old.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I remember them first doing it. Age of Ultron, when they took
Mhm.
the "I Got No String" song and slowed it
Right.
down, the Pinocchio song.
Yeah.
They just did it in the Beetlejuice 2 where they slow down the banana boat song.
Oh yeah,
It did. It did.
it's such a. I mean, it's gotten kind of hacked at this point, where like it is a trope that
I
a lot of people
Yeah.
do, and then they also
And it's you'll like movie trailers will knock an idea into the ground like faster than anything. I'm
yeah
so sick of like movie trailers with blah, ever since Inception
right
that
yeah,
became
and
like
and I
the
also
other
like
trendy thing.
yeah, and I also liked how they also kind of tackling the subject of like when a musician puts a song out in the world, then it's kind of and the record execs kind of own it, like they can
Hmm.
kind of use it any way they want,
Yeah.
even if the ways they're going to use it aren't the ways that the artist intended it being used. So you do get a little kind of artistry commentary there on that. So you are saying like a few things in this sketch, and
Yeah.
of course you're seeing Emma Stone pretending to be gutted by a prostitute with a machete or something like that. What
Hmm.
was it?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's got a lot in there. I think the one thing that took the sketch down a notch for me was the ending that you liked so much, Dennis. Because I've said in the recent weeks I've gotten kind of sick of, because this has become kind of a trope or a cliche for SNL of late, where like the end of the sketch is a fake out. Oh, this
True.
was really a commercial for this product the whole time. Like there was a sketch I rewatched from the Adam Driver episode. What was it called? Um, Old
Oh
Friends,
yeah.
where Mikey
Hmm.
Day is inviting his old friend, played by Adam Driver, out to drink. When he's home for Christmas, and the joke is like we gradually discovered that Adam Driver, his life is very insane. And the kicker at the very end is Mikey's wife Chloe says, like, well, you'd know this if you were ever on Facebook.
Right.
How to find out which of your old friends have gone crazy. And it's like, oh, ha 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 ha. And I think those are perfectly fine type of endings, but I just feel like SNL has gone to that well so much.
Mm.
I'm really sick of it.
I,
So
I
Yeah.
can I concede that, but I will say that I thought that what you guys were talking about with the idea that uh, the whole theme of the sketch is this
mhm.
kind of buried resentment that the artist would have about her
Yeah,
work being misappropriated without her consent, and that thematically it ties into the twist ending. I don't know, it worked for me,
yeah,
man.
I can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that. I can see that.
Yeah, like she's
That's
having
that's
her
perfectly
revenge.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, but like
I
I understand what you're saying too, John, because like we've even talked
mhm.
about it like in the past few weeks on the Maya Rudolph episode when the teacher sketch had that OnlyFans tag at the end of it,
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
the Scooby Doo sketch in the Gyllenhaal had that Apple ID tag at the
Hmm.
end of it, whereas like
Right, right. Yeah. It's because I've seen that same sort of twist so much so recently that when I rewatched it today,
Yep.
it definitely took that sketch down a notch for me, because it's just like, I wish they hadn't done that again. So it, like, taken in isolation, I think it's fine.
okay,
So
fair enough. Uh,
all right.
Well,
okay.
I can't wait to hear what you
Okay.
guys are
All
so
right.
hyped
Well,
up
I
about.
mean, it's just a hunch that I have, but so my favorite sketch of the year, it I think it was pretty much always going to be this, and it's from an early episode of the season. It's from the Nate Bargatze episode, and I am, of course, talking about Washington's Dream.
Ding 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 ding.
Yep.
You too, Darren?
Me too.
Oh, I had a feeling. I had a feeling. And this was written by Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel, Augustus White, um, which is just General Washington right before a big battle in the Revolutionary War. He's coming around and walking among his troops, and he's just talking about his vision for the country. And it all comes down to like weights and measurements and how weird and inconsistent our systems of weights and measurements are.
Yes, and
And
like
he's like, yeah, well, we'll have a pound, and 2,000 pounds will be called a ton. What will 1,000 pounds be called? We won't have a name for it.
yeah, and like how glamorous sometimes spelled with a U, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's not. Yeah, this I really I really dug because I really dug the sketch because well, for one thing, it's kind of an evergreen sketch. It's not a sketch that's based on like whatever's happening in the current pop culture landscape now.
True.
Like,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
has a
This sketch will work just as well 20 years from now.
yeah, absolutely. This actually felt like a sketch that maybe they did back in the 80s or
Hmm.
90s. Like I was when I was watching it, like, did they already do this? And it's not. It just feels like it. And like again, this is like another sketch where it captures uh
That's a really interesting idea, though. Is like taking old sketches that they did in the 80s or 90s and redoing them with the new
ooh,
cast.
reboots.
That would be interesting to see. It would become another crutch very quickly, but it
Yeah.
would be interesting to see. Something for the 3-hour anniversary show, maybe.
I can't remember who said it, but if you're in the SNL oral history, the Tom
Hmm.
Shales one,
Yes.
a writer or a performer, I can't remember who it was now, talks about how there's a file cabinet, or I assume there's a
Hmm.
many file cabinets now in the SNL offices with not just the scripts for every sketch that's ever been done, but every sketch that's ever been pitched.
Wow.
Whoa.
Well, that
And
must be how Seth Meyers can get them for his
yeah, Second Chance Theater.
Second Chance Theater
Uh,
feature on his show, where
yeah.
he whenever he doesn't do this quite as much now, but like whenever he had a former cast member, he'd have them they perform a sketch that wasn't picked for air, but they always liked it, and so they would perform it with that cast member and whoever they could get, and it's amusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
See,
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Washington's Dream. It's funny just because it's pointing out this absurdity that we Americans live with every day. We don't really question it, and it's also got a really funny runner that I'd forgotten about, where Keenan Thompson is playing one of the soldiers, he's General Washington is saying like, well, that's my dream for the country, and Keenan Thompson says something like, where all men can be free. And there's either like a long awkward pause, or he just changes the subject really quickly. He never addresses Keenan's concerns about slavery ending.
Yeah, he just
And
goes on to like his next point about
right.
like
right,
football. It's
right,
like
right,
we'll still use the metric system for our more unpopular sports like
right.
swimming and running, but for football we shall use yards.
Yeah. And like
Yes.
Keenan said, like, and you're gonna, release all the slaves, right? And then Nate says, you said something about temperature, right?
Yeah, I did not. And Keenan just in a perfect deadpan just goes, I did not. And just, beautiful work by everybody. It really suits Nate Bargatze's energy. I think we were talking about that before when we were talking about the chef show sketch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he just, I mean, it's perfect for him. He's got a nice low key energy that really works for the sketch, and he's getting great support from everybody else, but particularly from Keenan. I just love the slavery subtext in there because it's not the main point of the sketch, but it's just another funny runner, and I like it when they have another funny bizarre thing running kind of in the background of a sketch.
Right. And I also like that one because it actually kind of enhanced the sketch. Like I think a lot of times
Hmm.
throughout the show, they've had kind of like a little bit of runners here and there and non sequiturs that don't really add anything
Yes.
to the sketch. They're just like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just like another side weird thing. But like I
Yeah, a
think,
lot of times it's
yeah,
like, why does this supporting character, why does this guy have a weird quirk too? And yeah,
right. Like
it's weird.
yeah, like you mentioned it with the what was it? The Dua Lipa episode when they were in the
Hmm.
booth talk for a little spicy, and
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah,
Keenan was the guy behind the boards talking about parking, like he parked at
yeah,
a meter, and like that didn't really add anything to the sketch. So it was like
right. It smacked of we need to give Keenan more substantial dialogue in the sketch, and it's like, well, no, if he's not the central figure in the sketch, you don't really need to. Let Keenan be a supporting guy once in a while.
no, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, that number one sketch for both of us, Washington's Dream.
Wow.
It's a solid sketch for
Yeah,
sure.
I
I'm not
like it a
sure if
lot.
we've ever matched up on the number one
Wow.
sketch of the season before, Darren. So
Look at us now. Hey,
If
hey, look
yeah,
at us.
just to chime in, it was close. It was close for me. Didn't make the top
oh,
three.
don't try to make excuses now, Dennis
I
Perkins.
know, you're right.
You had your chance and you flubbed it.
I did. Um, I thought it was kind of adorable. Nate, I liked the fact that he was an incongruous host. This sketch, he was all over the cue cards, though.
Yeah.
It was the pacing kind of
But
suffered
in a
a little.
weird way, that it kind of I think it kind of added something to it because
Maybe.
it gave him like a sort of stiffer delivery, and
Yeah.
I think it kind of worked in a weird way. I don't know. I'm hardly ever going to shit on somebody for using cue cards.
I gotcha.
SNL,
but I will say I love a sketch that goes in a completely different direction than you think it will.
yes.
So many sketches are, we've got this funny idea, we got this funny twist,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we're gonna do. And
Yeah.
the twist is the joke, and
Yeah.
in this one, it's a sustained left turn that just keeps left turning until it's
Right.
just.
I mean, as people who are regular listeners to this podcast can attest, I love a good tangent. I love a good, weird, bizarre tangent, and I love those in comedy sketches. And this, like you said, after they got to the twist, the joke wasn't over. The
Mhm.
joke was how weird and absurd and inconsistent our systems of measurements are. We'll use liters to measure alcohol and milk or alcohol and this other stuff, but we'll use gallons for milk and paint.
I really like the idea that as it went on, Washington he never broke through to the idea that his vision had any flaws to it, but he almost got a little defensive, and you had a sense like another one of those. It's like there's what's going on inside this guy. In such a silly sketch, like the father of our country. It's like if the idea that this would be the real thing, that the straw that broke the camel's back, and
on the night before a big battle, and also it's just funny to imagine that. Yes, all this weird system of weights and measures that we have. Oh no, that was all thought out ahead of time by George Washington. Yeah, that's a really funny idea.
And I just love that there's one, he just a super deadpan joke where he's talking about football, and Mikey Day's soldier says he doesn't know what football is, and he says it's a new game that will be played mainly by throwing the ball with your hands. And then Mikey Day says there's no kicking, and he says there's a little kicking.
yeah.
It felt like almost like a Larry David type of little kicking. Just a little kicking.
Larry David could have done a nice job in this sketch as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So. But Washington's Dream. It's a slam dunk.
It's a banger. I mean that one's still up on YouTube, of course, still very popular. I think that was the clear breakout from the Nate Bargatze episode. I don't know how many views that one has. Let me click on it real fast and hit pause so it won't start playing.
Okay.
And so I can see how many views it has. It has 130K views. That seems low.
Yeah.
That seems low. I'm just going to say that. That deserves more it deserves more likes.
No Beavis and Butthead
on the YouTubes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not up to Beavis and Butthead numbers, but
okay.
Deserves to be.
Absolutely.
So that's our top 8 for the season, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So honorable mentions, Dennis. What you got there, buddy?
All right.
You sound so reluctant.
Well,
all right.
No. Just okay. All right. Picking from the list. I'll pick this one to so I can digress a little into criticism because
Okay,
that's my
yeah, go for it.
jam because I'm a jerk. Um,
Yeah,
I
because
don't
you
think
have a black heart.
I do. I don't think the Please Don't Destroy guys are going to stick. I think this is a
Mm.
real down season. It seemed like they ran out of ideas, and I know that they got
Their appearances got a lot more infrequent over the
yeah,
course of the season, which
and yeah,
I was disappointed to see because I do usually like them.
I like
One of
them
their
too.
sketches, the roast sketch with
Hmm.
uh, uh,
Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson. Thank you. That was one of my favorites, and
Yeah.
it just missed making my list.
Oh, way to spoil
Yeah.
mine.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Damn.
Yeah, that one kind of partook of the original kind of energy that made that, or the engine that made that
Hmm.
their whole shtick run, which is they're the
Yeah.
low men on the totem pole. Backstage, all three have to share an office. They get no respect, and
Right.
also though, because they continued that obviously because that's their whole deal, but
Hmm.
they also used to have a lot more pace in the absurdity, and
Yeah.
they slowed way down. And this one really worked. This is the Dakota Johnson. It's called Roast, and it just
Hmm.
basically she comes in, host drops in, says, "What do you got for me?" And it basically turns into her just being just not impressed with them at all, and
Right.
them being taken aback, and then they just start roasting the hell out of each other, and the roasts are all hilarious and mean,
Yeah, they
and
were.
I
Hmm.
really enjoyed them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were.
and accurate
Yeah,
too.
they were really going places I didn't expect them to go. Like
Yeah,
mentioning like the movie they just put out, which
yeah,
got a low Rotten Tomato scores. The
yeah,
fact that they brought up
and
the fact that
it was maybe like a week or two after it had come out, I think.
yeah.
yeah, absolutely, and the fact that they brought out the whole nepo baby thing that
Yeah,
surprised me. I didn't think they would bring that up.
But
yeah,
they
and
called a truce with their glowing rings on that
yeah,
because nepo
yeah.
babies stick
Yeah,
There,
together.
a
Yeah.
foot in the door, and so much more.
yeah,
and we see one of the Please Don't Destroy guys who's not the son of a famous SNL
Hmm.
writer. He's left out, and he's like, oh, Ben's just like, oh,
oh, poor
okay.
Ben.
Poor Ben. And
Poor Ben, who doesn't have a famous father in the business,
but they were
or
all
maybe he does. I don't know. But
all the lines were hilariously uh, brutal, and everybody and the performance, everybody sold it really well. Everybody
mhm,
they played it real,
yeah.
and her
And again,
she had the
it
biggest
matched her
yeah
energy
yeah
well because she has a very restrained sort of energy, of almost a deadpan sort of
yeah.
vibe to her, and it worked really well for that.
Hmm. But she has the two death blows where one she
Mhm.
calls them she says I always wanted to work with the lonelier island.
Woo.
Yeah,
uh, and then at the end she's like, oh come on, we're just kidding, let's make peace, blah blah blah. And she says, I besides I always loved you guys on Workaholics.
yeah,
And
yeah,
outstanding. I think those guys need to rediscover themselves if they're gonna
yeah.
maintain their position as strongly on the show as they have
Yeah,
on
I
camera.
would like to see them on a more regular basis in season 50. Whether that's every week or every other week or whatever. But when they're not on the show, I miss them. Even if they don't have like as strong of a sketches
Hmm.
as some of what they've done before.
They're very likable fellows. I just think
They
that
are.
their
They
writing
really
has
are.
suffered this season.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's
Fair
fair.
enough. Fair enough.
Darren, you got. Oh no, wait, it's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. What
Um,
is some honorable mentions?
I would say again, I picked. I have a lot, but I'm going from three to one. Number three for my honorable mentions would be Ozempic for Ramadan,
Interesting.
from the Rami Youssef episode.
Okay.
Um, no writers credited for this one. Oddly enough, science still has not discovered an answer to that question. But I just liked it. It was just talking about how you can use the weight loss thing, Ozempic, so that you can get through the holiday of Ramadan, where you're not supposed to eat from sunrise to sunset, um, and people just talking about the benefits and how it's amazing. And it
Well,
was just a quick, fun, goofy thing, and I think it was just a real efficient expertly written sketch.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, whoever wrote it.
It's halal.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Not too much more to say about that one, but it tickled my funny bone.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Okay, I can give some honorable mentions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna give a shout out to well, I'll mention some pre-tapes. Lake
Okay.
Beach. From the
Down on a lake
yeah,
beach. Yeah.
it's a damn catchy song, and like look,
I saw somebody posting about that not a few days ago. Yeah.
yeah, Lake Beach I thought was a strong pre-tape. I grew up on the East Coast, so I wasn't super familiar with Lake Beaches, but like once they explained it, I
Mm-hmm.
got it. And
Yeah.
and like yeah, I really dug that one.
Darren's from New York, everyone.
Yeah, I'm a coastal elite. I'm
Yeah.
see what else will I get?
He's never mentioned that on the podcast
No,
before.
it's high time people knew.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out to Bowen Strait from the Sydney Sweeney episode.
That
Where
was a fun one. Yeah.
it's this really strange premise where they're like, yeah, no, Bowen's actually he's not gay at all. He's straight. He just plays it gay for the
Yeah.
laughs, and like then they roll with it, and then they have Bowen get into this torrid affair with Sydney Sweeney, and
Right.
like they play it like really dramatic, but it's also pretty ridiculous too.
Yeah, because they go way over the top with it. They also that has one of my probably my favorite backstage story of the season, where like because Bowen has to have like sort of a love scene with Sydney Sweeney, and apparently they were going to her and they were like, so Sydney, we can, if you'd like, we can get an intimacy coordinator in here, and just because we don't want to make you do anything you're not uncomfortable with. And she just went like, guys, I'm on Euphoria. It's fine.
Come on.
Like whatever you do on your little late night show, it's not going to match what I do on HBO.
Absolutely.
On a regular basis.
And I will give that one extra points for just a cameo from the Gersh.
Yeah.
Why was she
Gina
around?
Gershon.
Was she in town? Somebody understood the appeal of Gina Gershon, and that she would be the perfect person for the role of Bowen Yang's steady side piece. I don't know. It's just perfect for me. I love the Gersh.
Yeah. And it's also a nice sort of callback, because I remember her being on one of the Ladies' Man sketches back in the day as like one of his like regular side pieces. It was like her and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Florence Henderson.
Absolutely.
What did those three talk about backstage?
Oh,
I want to know that.
What don't they talk about? I'll give a shout out to that sketch. I'll give a shout out to Shrimp Tower from the Josh Brolin episode. Such a bizarre. It felt like a sketch that would have been on like Mr. Show or even Monty Python, like with how bizarre it was. Like I like for like part of me, it's like, has SNL ever gotten this off kilter like this, or maybe they haven't in a while, but I don't know. It's one of the sketches that really showed me like, oh wow, Josh Brolin's down for the weirdness. He's giving his all in this sketch.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. And
I'll give
and I'll give a nod to two more sketches. I'll give a nod to Beep Beep from the Adam Driver episode.
I don't know if I remember that one. How did that one go?
It's the one where it's like a bunch of friends are getting together for a little dinner get together, and the dad has like a hot plate of casserole, and he's trying to get through people.
Yeah.
Like beep beep,
okay.
let me get through you there, that type of thing.
Yeah,
it's like a little,
and it escalates, and
because like it's like a little thing. I guess people like guys, dads in the Midwest, who's like, oh beep beep, let me get by you there. Like that little thing, and from that, little germ of an idea, like escalates to this whole big thing, and we get to see Driver go toe to toe with Dismukes, and they both hold their own in that sketch for sure. I'd say,
yeah,
absolutely.
And that's another Dismuke sketch where it's like about the veneer of suburban politeness, and if you mess with somebody's established kind of adaptation to that, it's going to go badly for you.
No,
that's an interesting observation. I'm going to keep an eye out on that theme in his sketches from now on, because that's I hadn't made that connection before, but that's a really interesting observation.
Very interesting. And I'll give a shout out to Pongo from the Kate McKinnon episode. That weird little orange pet that that's neither alive nor dead.
Yes, I
Uh,
remember liking that one. Yeah, I haven't rewatched that one lately, but I should go back and revisit it.
it's a weird one. It starts off weird and somehow it gets even weirder and darker with like the mom driven mad by the stillness of Pongo. Like
Hmm.
it's an interesting one. That's another one where like they were trying to take a really big swing at something different. Like I will admit it, for this season they do take a few swings here and there to like really get into the weirdness of it. Because like I mean, yes, we could say
Yeah.
that like for a lot of the sketches, when we have said it on the show, where it's just like a rehash of a sketch they did like a couple episodes ago, and they just re
Or even the season before.
or yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But like once in a while, they try to step out of their comfort zone and do something really kooky, and
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And nothing more kooky than Pongo, something that's not an animal, it's neither alive nor dead.
I always like it when the show is trying different things. I've got another one in my honorable mentions that I couldn't, in good conscience, put it above an honorable mention. Not because it's a bad sketch or, but because it is a bit of one of those repeats that you talked about. Like it's kind of basically a rewrite of a sketch that they'd done before. And this was a couple goals from the Rami Youssef episode,
Okay.
which is where he's on a game show. He's asked to name his biggest fear. It's like a newlywed game type game show, and he has this unusually specific scenario about his wife dying accidentally, but he's accused of it, and because he sent text messages to his friends about how irritating he found her, and so he ends up going on the run with his wife's best friend who's a lawyer, and he describes like they're in a hotel room together the night because they run off before they read the verdict in his trial, and they end up making love, and they're in a place beyond right and wrong, and it's just this wonderfully specific scenario, and it's very close to a game show sketch that they did a year or two ago, um, but still very very funny. This was written by Dan Bula, Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, Ben Marshall, Please Don't Destroy Boys, and Jake Nordwind. And I just rewatched it a couple hours ago. Still very very funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give two shout outs to two pre-tapes that weren't on the show. They were cut for time, but absolutely 100% totally should have been on the show. And I've said this when we talked about the episodes on this show. The
Hmm.
Limu, Emu, and Doug on the Shane Gillis.
Mhm.
It
That was my number one honorable mention. Yep.
it's a crime that didn't make it to air.
Yeah.
That
Especially when I mean, it's substantially better than a lot of things that did air.
Yes, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
it was a strong sketch. Like it had that aired, it would
Mhm.
absolutely would have been sketch of the night for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the Limu Emu, and they're like breaking into a guy's apartment, and then it goes in a really bizarre direction very quickly, where the emu kills a guy on a couch and like plants drugs on him, and he's like, "Oh, he had a gun. Here it is with a serial number filed off."
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this wasn't integrated product placement.
Oh no?
Where it goes, it's like, yeah, we take care of him just like Liberty Mutual takes care of its customers.
Yeah, it's
But it is so damn funny.
it turned into
Uh,
training day real quick.
yeah, it really does. This is written by Streeter Seidel with assists from Rosebud Baker and Stephen Castillo. And
Nice.
oh god, so good,
Uh,
so good.
yeah, like I that definitely should have made it to air. And Papyrus,
Can I take a guess? Oh, you said it before I
yes,
could. Yeah,
Papyrus 2
Virus too. Yeah.
for Ryan Gosling. That
Yeah.
absolutely should have made it to air because it was a strong sketch, and it's a sketch that it's because the Papyrus, the original one, felt super original and everything. They could have just kind of it been a retread of that,
Yeah.
but this wasn't. This
Yeah.
felt like a genuine continuation of
Yeah.
that first sketch.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
Like we
I
learn
yeah.
more about the character. Kyle Mooney makes another appearance again.
Hmm. I
Again,
know, like we have an ex cast member coming back to make a cameo, and it ends up cut for time. I guess just because it was such a long sketch.
yeah. Again, Kyle
But
Mooney gets cut for time.
yeah, yeah, but really, really a shame. It deserved better.
Yeah, like the fact
Uh,
that Ryan Gosling's character name was like Wingding. So like, oh, now this is why he's so upset over
mhm.
Papyrus. Like they explained it. I don't know. They fleshed out the character a lot more. It would have been It's a shame this didn't make it there.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that one, and I was nervous about that one because Papyrus is a pretty beloved sketch. Um,
Absolutely.
so doing a sequel, to such a beloved thing, it's always kind of risky,
Yeah.
because that could have very easily been a one off, but they pulled it off. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good stuff.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Absolutely. All right. So, you wanna maybe we should go to the Twitter to see what our lovely fans thought about this season.
Oh, let's see. I got them all fired up right here. Let's see what they have to say.
Let's do it.
Let's see. We got Boardman gets paid. He says, "This season was kind of whatever. Probably preparing for 50, but I feel like we all had a good time together. I'm going to miss everyone coming together to talk about what we just saw, and so I have no favorites for this season. I appreciate the vibes. Hope everyone has a good summer."
Oh,
All
that's
right.
really nice.
Yeah, that's just
It's
so
a-
sweet. Boardman is probably consistently our sweetest commenter.
He's
He like always ends almost every comment with like "love you guys" and a little peace sign, and
yeah.
it's
he's like the
he's very
Mother's.
heartwarming.
He's like the Mother's Day cold open of Twitter users.
Yeah.
He really is. He
He's
really
he's
is.
a warm hug.
Yeah,
Nick Store
love you,
said,
Boardman.
yeah. Nick Store
Yeah,
says, favorite sketch, Washington's Dream. Favorite
that is correct.
favorite pre-tape, Age of Discovery from the Bad Bunny
Mm.
episode.
I like that one.
Yeah, like a sketch totally in Spanish. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that was ever been done before. Favorite host, Adam Driver. Favorite episode, Bargatze. Favorite musical guest, Chris Stapleton. I remember
Mm.
liking him. I remember thinking he was pretty good. And MVP JAJ Mukes. I think I think really JAJ, but my favorite player is just Mukes.
Okay, that's,
Nice.
that's that's cool. We haven't really talked about the musical guests for this season. Do you guys have any favorites that among the musical guests of the season?
Dennis?
Who really impressed you?
I'm so old. I'm getting into the thing where I have to Google like half of them now. It's sad.
Yeah,
But
I'm exactly the
I'm
same.
all
Yeah.
about Boy Genius. I love them.
Yes.
They were very good. Yeah.
And I'll give it up for Stapleton, not necessarily because I remember his songs, but one of my honorable mentions would, had they gone on further, would be the pre-tape "Get That Boy Back"
Mm.
with Trost and Ego and Feynman. They're singing like one of those songs about my man done me wrong,
Yeah.
and the first two were like, oh, so I scratched his truck and I did this, and then
Yeah.
Chloe Trost's whole thing is her ex was this Chris Stapleton plays him, and she does like all this psychological warfare, like sneaking into his
Right.
house and changing his shoes to one size, half size bigger over months, so he thinks he's shrinking, and psychologically torturing his mom by disguising herself as her wallpaper and
Yes.
Yeah.
stuff like that. And Stapleton was the song is a banger. Trost
Mhm.
kills it, and Stapleton is excellent in it too. So he
Yeah.
gets
And
bumped
That
up
was a
there.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I should add that to my best of the season list.
And I like
Yeah.
how at the end of that song we find out that it was actually his sister texting
Yeah.
her, and she was like, "Oh, that was your sister." Oh,
Yeah.
And
That was a
Heidi
nice
Gardner
little-
plays the Heidi Gardner plays the mom who's been terrorized, and she has to move back in with Stapleton. And then when the couple patches it up, she screams. She sees Trost again, and she screams, "She's got the wall's eyes!" And she's been disguising herself as the wallpaper. Anyway,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a great sketch. I remember that. Like as far as musical guests go, I'm totally with you, Dennis. Boy Genius, I thought rocked it. If kids are saying rocked it still. Chris,
They are not.
okay. Chris Stapleton, I thought was the bee's knees, and I really like Ray because I wasn't super familiar with her before, but after seeing her perform, I was like, oh, she's really good. She kind of has like Adele, Amy Winehouse,
Mhm.
Duffy type of vibes, and she's a strong performer. I like Ray really impressed me, and Foo Fighters. I always like Foo Fighters.
well, sure, yeah.
So they're always
Yeah.
really good.
I'm going to be old and boring with my musical guest selections. It's Foo Fighters and Vampire Weekend for me.
Oh, right.
We're both
Right.
Mhm.
both bands I've enjoyed for years, and I was looking forward to seeing them on the show. They did not disappoint, and yeah, I mean, I did like Boy Genius as well, and some of the other people like pleasantly surprised me. but most of the musical guests were like, I was like, eh,
Yeah.
yeah. So not too many of the musical guests really excited me. So it was nice to see old favorites like the Foo Fighters
Right.
and Vampire Weekend.
Yeah, I forgot about Vampire Weekend. They were good too.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
How dare you? Why don't you grow up and listen to Radiohead?
Oh God. John Ananias at Burtonesque92 says, this was a pretty underwhelming season in my book. The lows included a litany of carbon copy retreads and unfocused shambolic sketches. The highs included the increased confidence in Andrew Dismukes as a writer and actor, and the sheer comic charisma of Sarah Sherman. Then he goes on to say, my top 3 episodes: Nate Bargatze, Kristen Wiig, Josh Brolin. My favorite sketches included Washington's Dream, Jumanji, Little Orphan Cassidy. Favorite weekend update segment: Sarah as CJ Rossitano, the bastard child of Cullen Jost. And
yes,
yes,
that was very funny and just missed making my list.
Cats in the Cradle.
Yeah.
Even in a non-stellar year, there are still a good number of high highs.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. And I feel like it wasn't the greatest season overall, but yeah, there are always standouts.
Yeah.
There's always going to be at least one or two, or possibly even 3 sketches where you're just like, hey, that was really great, wonderful, no notes.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, John and I bring the heat.
Pow.
Lastly, we have Techie, who's at Uncle Scrooge Duck without the U. Says the fall was brutal. Queen Bee Maya was just good old eye candy.
Okay,
agreed.
Hopefully, after 50, we get an update on Weekend Update. That's run its course. Appreciate they didn't do all Trump openers. Yeah, that's. I think maybe they've sensed that people are getting very burned out on Trump.
Yeah, I will say that about their cold opens, even though they're, like I said before, they're usually like the weakest part of the show. I will admit they have gotten shorter, which is a plus. And
yeah, they're not like 7-minute epics anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, I still think they need to do something with not just have JAJ do his amazing impression and just it be that, just his rambling stream of consciousness type of thing. Like the last time they did, they had other characters come in and break it up a bit, so he had somebody to play off of, like what was that? Devin as Tim Scott and whatnot. And I think that works a little bit better than just to have JAJ ramble on and on, I think.
Okay. All right. So we covered the hosts, we covered the episodes, we covered the musical guests, we covered our favorite sketches. What do we want to see going forward as the show is barreling towards season 50? We know there's going to be a big primetime special in February that's like 3 hours celebrating 50 years of Saturday Night Live, and I'm sure that's going to be a star-studded extravaganza. Or maybe it's just going to be like Pete Davidson. Just sitting there in the studio, not doing much of anything.
Hey.
You never know.
Okay.
It'll just be all the chat as sketches.
Oh God, no!
and then Rob and Wendy Weiner, and then the Bye sketch, and then
Gilly,
and
God help me if they bring in the Californians.
And then the Californians. It's going to be all that.
An annoying man.
So what do we want to see for season 50? How do we want to see the show change, develop? Do we think Lauren's going to call it a day after the end of the season?
I don't know. Yeah, Dennis, what are your thoughts?
Oh boy. I think Lauren likes a round number. He'll be what, 81, even more.
Sounds about right.
And this will be 50. Although he only got 45 seasons, so maybe he'd want to hang on to make up for the Ebersol years, so he can get his 50.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's basically. Hell, if it wasn't for Eddie Murphy, he'd basically forget about the Ebersol years.
Yeah. I think I am going to predict that Lauren takes the 50th as his big victory lap, and his valedictory, and he gets to make his speech and he gets to say goodbye, and everyone
Mhm.
can do what Lorne loves the most, which is to say thank you, Lorne, and tell him how wonderful he is.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Yes.
and to be clear, I think Lorne is wonderful. I haven't been watching this show for literally 50 years for no reason, and it's largely thanks to that man. And I am eternally grateful to what he created, and I'm eternally better for worse. My sense of humor and my sensibilities have been shaped to an extent by his legacy.
Hmm.
Uh, I wouldn't be sorry to see him go. Um, I think that the show's weakest tendencies at this point can be traced directly to him.
Mhm.
And if not to him directly, then to the kind of cruise ship mentality of SNL that he's fostered, where it
I like
takes.
that cruise
Well,
ship
I've said
mentality.
it before. I don't know. It's just it. A cruise ship is very hard to steer.
Hmm.
To
Yeah,
make
yeah.
any change whatsoever requires a great deal of will and effort, and I don't see an 82-year-old Lorne or whatever having that kind of courage or energy. Um,
Yeah, I mean, basically, the last time he really reinvented the show from the ground up was in like the mid to late '90s,
sure.
when they brought in Will Ferrell and that whole generation. And since then, it's just been that gradual transition of the cast, and the show's more been a steady evolution rather than a rebranding. So I feel like whenever Lorne leaves, then it is going to be a definite rebranding, just by necessity, if nothing else. So, who do you think might take over if he decides to leave?
Well, I mean, the candidates are, the usual candidates are Tina Fey and Seth Meyers,
Hmm.
um, who would be excellent at it, um, if maybe a little older uh,
Hmm.
than I would like, a little more set in their ways comedically.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a tricky thing because it's like you want somebody who knows the ins and outs of the show and how it works. So you want
yeah,
somebody with a history with the show,
and the
but
thing,
yeah, at the
yeah,
same time, you want to be young enough to be a fresh voice for the show.
for NBC, it's got to be somebody who has a pedigree with the show and
Yeah,
somebody who isn't going to change things too much because NBC doesn't want them to change things too much.
right.
The only thing that drastically overhauling the show's comic sensibilities will do is lose advertisers and lose viewers.
Hmm.
SNL isn't going to become, you know, the hip restaurant in town ever again. It's
Right.
it's an it's an institution, and you want a caretaker if you're
Hmm.
Yes.
NBC.
Wow, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's yeah, a very even-handed assessment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I agree.
that's a good point. Yeah, so I looked it up. So Lorna will be 80 in November.
Okay.
So
Mm,
he's creeping up there. And yeah, I might be inclined to agree with you, Dennis. I do think maybe after season 50 he might bow out and call it a night. As far
yeah.
as who will come to replace him, I mean it I feel like it'll be Tina Fey. Just because I mean, Seth Meyers already just signed a deal to do his late night show until like 2028. So I
Sure.
he can't really go
Oh,
anywhere.
that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe.
So he's probably out of the running if Lauren leaves after season 50. So
Yeah,
yeah.
like I know some people have also said maybe Steve Higgins, but I don't know if I
Oh,
quite see that. Oh,
Hmm.
he's well. I like Steve
He's not.
Higgins, but I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's happily guffawing along as Jimmy Fallon's Ed McMahon, which
Yeah.
I'm just
And
like
he's
he
also
doesn't
not
see.
really a
Yeah,
name that's known by the person on the street. If you were like, "Oh, Steve Higgins is
yeah,
taking over SNL," even though he's had a number of years on the Fallon show,
yeah,
most people would be like, "Who? Oh, yeah, that guy."
yeah,
And that's not necessarily what you want. You want somebody who's like, "Oh, wow, yeah,
yeah.
I want
yeah,
to see what they do."
Who
yeah.
do you
Nope.
guys?
I,
Yeah, do you guys have any thoughts of somebody who you would want to take over that might be outside the box? Like somebody you think like would check all of the boxes but still be interesting.
I don't know. I haven't even thought about it really.
I mean, my main thoughts are, yeah, obviously Tina Fey and Seth Meyers. I think either one of them would be eminently qualified. There is, of course, the question of if either one of them wants the gig.
Sure.
I've seen a number of people who are like super fans of the show, and I think it's like the younger fans who tend to think this, who are like, "Oh, it should be Keenan," and I'm like, "Really?" I mean, he's been on the show for forever, but and I guess he was a producer on a sitcom, but does he have any experience in producing a variety show? Yeah, I mean, he knows how things work there thoroughly, but I've never seen any indication that Keenan wants to move behind the scenes.
Yeah, like
So I just always thought that was strange. I think that's just coming more from younger fans who like can't conceive of SNL without him.
Mhm.
yeah, like he seems
And
like way more.
and I'm yeah,
Yeah, he seems like way more of a performer than behind the
yeah.
scenes guys. Like, I mean,
Oh,
to
yeah.
my knowledge, I don't even know if he's ever has he written any sketches throughout his tenure, or did he just like perform? Like our,
Well, I think most cast members tend to be like uncredited writers,
oh, okay,
if nothing else. The cast. I remember Janine Garofalo said like the cast is basically expected to help out with the writing,
Mhm.
and and she was like, "Oh, I don't know how they get away with that with the Writers Guild."
Yeah.
um, um, yeah, I think it's just more like young people who just can't conceive of the show without Keenan Thompson, and I'm just like, oh no, you kids don't know. There's a whole world of the show before Keenan Thompson.
Yeah.
The show, the show does not die if Keenan Thompson leaves. And honestly, I think that there are probably a lot of cast members who've been hanging on for an extra year or two because they want to be there on the 50th season.
yeah,
So I feel like 50th season, I feel like we're probably going to see Jost and Shay leave.
yeah,
And I think that's fine because I think we're due for a revamp of Weekend Update.
absolutely.
Would Jost ever want to take over the show? I don't know.
Um,
Are there other things that Jost wants to do with his career? I don't know.
I could see Jost wanting the job. I shudder
Yeah.
to think, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I would like the show as much if Jost was running the whole shebang. I don't dislike him as much as I used to. I mean, I hated him when he first started the show, and I'm kind of glad I didn't have his podcast back then because I was really down on him. And then after a few years, I was as people do, they grow on you, and you're just like, they're not so bad.
yeah. I don't know.
But an outside of the box person to take over, like the way that Dick Ebersol was back in 1980.
Well, except that he
I
was
don't know.
such a weird choice. I don't know. I was just curious because it's it's got to come at some point.
I know.
I haven't thought about it a great deal, honestly.
It'd be kind of awesome. It'd be kind of awesome if Conan did it, but I don't. That's never gonna.
Oh wow.
I don't.
Now we're dreamcasting.
Yeah, I think Conan is just fine doing his podcast and doing the travel shows, and he's in his 60s now, so
yeah, that's true.
Conan's probably looking to just wind things down a little more.
Yeah, that's true.
How about give it to Tim Robinson, see what happens.
Oh my God!
There's an outside the box story.
America is not ready.
Or ask Odenkirk if he'd come back. Because he notoriously had such a terrible time and then went on to redefine sketch comedy. So
how about Robert Smigel?
Smigel.
Ooh, here we go.
Mm.
Isn't he in his 60s too?
Really interesting.
Oh yeah,
he probably is. Yeah, because he was one of Conan's original writers.
What about Al Franken?
Oh my God!
I'm sure he would jump at it.
He probably would. Yeah, I know he was like dying to take over the show when Lauren left the first time. Paula Pell?
Paula would be great.
Yeah,
that would be good too.
I'm just thinking of like ex writers who've made good.
Sure.
I think we've hit most of the big ones. Well, I mean, hell, John Mulaney. How about John Mulaney?
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
That'd be a really interesting few years.
Absolutely. I just started watching his that Netflix show he has. Everybody's in LA. It's fantastic. I really like it
a lot.
I've only seen the odd clip of that because I haven't had a Netflix subscription in a little while, but I'm very curious about that show.
Yeah,
so.
it's pretty wild, but it's pretty funny.
It's charming and as shaggy as his new haircut.
Yes.
Oh. That's a good line. Did you use that in your little column?
I didn't.
Okay. Well, that's one to use in the future. Um, so yeah. So okay. Well, what are your? We know there's going to be a big primetime special, like they did for the 40th and the 25th anniversaries, and it's going to be a 3-hour shebang. What are you hoping to see? What are you? I mean, it's going to be a celebration of the show, or we'll see lots of clips. I'm sure we'll see lots of people coming back, and
Yeah.
so what do you want to see in that, or is that all you want to see?
Uh, I would like to see. Well, know what I would love to see, but I don't know if we're gonna see it. I would love to see them maybe do a little bit of a focus on the Ebersol years, like the years that Lauren, because I know we're definitely
Yeah,
for sure gonna get all the years that Lauren was there. I would love
yeah.
to see like just a little nod or of appreciation to those few years, those few like oddball years where the show really didn't know what it was or what it was going to be, and Lauren wasn't there really to steer the ship. But they
Hmm.
still created some like really good comedy and really good sketches. Of course, the great Eddie Murphy came out of that, and like it seems like this sort of like bastard child of a couple of years that SNL really doesn't acknowledge that much, and I would really like to see them kind of highlight those years just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I always found fun in the anniversary shows, and I think they've gotten away from this a bit, is I like to see the uh, the cast members of different generations kind of mixing and matching and working
Mm.
together, and that's always fun when an old cast member comes back to host. But yeah, I want to see like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd in a sketch with Dana Carvey and Kate McKinnon, or just to pick random names out of a hat, or
Mm.
you know Tina and Amy teaming up with Jane Curtin to do something, or whatever. I always find that fun,
Hmm.
just to see the different uh, generations kind of interact and collide. You know,
Yeah.
like think of it like a Doctor Who anniversary special where you see all the old doctors come back and they're having fun together.
Yeah.
I'd like to see something like that.
No, I
So
would love that too. That'd be fantastic.
Hmm.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that would be fun.
Well,
So I don't know what else.
well,
What have we not covered that we said we were going to?
I mean,
I'm drawing a blank now.
it's the season. I mean, it's the season wrap up. We could always go to our annual tradition of Wikipedia pictures from the cast.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Let's get into this.
The moment you've all been waiting for.
I know this is this is a segment that I think I'm the only one who's a real big booster of it. But I did a little research on this yesterday. Remarkable number of the cast pictures kind of unchanged this year. Kind of surprising. Not too much turnover.
Interesting.
We've got for the folks whose pictures are still unchanged from when we last looked at them last year in 2023. Michael Che, Mikey Day, Andrew Dismukes, Chloe Feynman, Heidi Gardner, Huggy Johnson, Colin Jost, Molly Carney, Michael Longfellow, Ego, Sarah, and Keenan all have unchanged pictures.
What?
Yeah.
guys,
So
guys, come on. What are we doing here?
that's and I will say that some of them maybe there's room for improvement.
All right.
There's some who have some are like a little weaker than others. Some they've got the airport photos, or a couple of them have they're obviously like in the middle of a stand-up set, and those tend to not be the most flattering pictures in the world.
I
So
still,
yeah, some
yeah, I still remember that one with Alex Moffat where he's like at the stand, just sweaty, nervously
he
holding a
he was a
microphone.
sweaty mess. Yeah, yeah.
That was a weird one.
Some the stand-up pictures are never especially good, and I know it's so much of it is about like what Wikipedia can have the rights to. Um, but I know there are a few enterprising photographers out there who've done nice, flattering pictures of the additional cast, and like some I would say are a little outdated now because like with Mikey and Punky and Dismukes, they're all masked up in their photos, and
Oh,
in 2024 that seems a little
that's old school.
yeah, it seems a little old school. Like Mikey's like pulling his mask down. And he's giving the peace sign, and I still like that photo a lot. James Austin Johnson, he has a photo that's new to me. I think I didn't check him last year because he was just a featured player last year.
Okay.
So I'm not, but he has a solid picture, I think.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, and Bowen Yang and Marcelo Hernandez, they both had their pictures removed
Ooh.
from last year. Bowen's was kind of weird because it was a painting of him. Uh,
Okay.
Not really what you want on a Wikipedia entry, I think. Maybe if that's like 3 or 4 photos down, but that should not be his main profile picture.
Interesting.
And Marcelo had a pretty unflattering picture, so I'm not too surprised that was removed.
Okay.
And surprisingly, Chloe Trost, Devin Walker, and Please Don't Destroy, none of them have pictures on their Wikipedia pages.
What is going on? I hope they all rectify this summer.
That would be nice. Going into the 50th, it'd be nice if everybody has a nice, professional-looking, flattering picture on their Wikipedia page.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the season of increased media attention, I think certainly Chloe Trost and Devin Walker both deserve profile pics on the Wikipedia, even though they're still featured players.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's got to be a nice picture of Please Don't Destroy from somewhere that we can use.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Listeners, help out here. Post up a really nice picture of the PDD boys on the Wikipedias.
Or Chloe Trost, or Marcelo, or Bowen, or Devin. Those are the folks who really need it. And then take a look at the other cast members and see who you think needs improvement, or even just freshening up. I would definitely recommend Punky and Dismukes, because they're both masked up in their pictures, and we deserve to see their smiling faces.
Exactly. Show us that mug.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you guys have any strong opinions on the Wikipedia pictures, or is this just me?
I think for the most part they all look okay. Chloe Fineman still has that kind of sweaty looking picture of hers, and
she's got the farmer's daughter thing going on.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's what I think of. She's in this red and white checked dress with the puffy shoulder things. Yeah.
Yeah. Keenan's is not too bad. He's getting interviewed on a carpet yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I think that's from an upfront or something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Sarah has a good one now. I like the one she had before a little better because it was just a very flattering photo of her.
Yeah.
So yeah,
not bad, not too bad. We're hanging in there this year, guys. We're doing all right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I think. I'm gonna have to give most improved to James Austin Johnson just because that was the one picture that was really new to me.
Okay.
So he gets it by default, but it's a good picture.
Yeah. I always wonder if you're famous, how much do you care about Wikipedia?
It probably varies.
Yeah,
from person to person,
I bet there are some people who are there every day.
Yeah. Well, it depends how self-obsessed you are.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if it's more of a thing that your team is concerned about.
Right.
Your publicist or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know like a few comics professionals. I know there's one comic professional offhand I know who apparently went kind of nuts trying to edit down his Wikipedia page because he felt a lot of it was inaccurate, and and you're not allowed to edit your own Wikipedia page. So most of his changes were undone, I think. So
well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, but I guess that's a decent role to have in place.
I guess so. Well,
so people don't abuse it.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm not, so my Wikipedia page doesn't say I'm a master of kung fu and.
That would be awesome.
What, you're not?
Turning to Michelle Pfeiffer in 1985.
Wow, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, not bad. Wikipedia pictures, not too bad this year. Okay.
Yep, chugging along okay.
Okay.
So, always room for improvement, though.
Always room for improvement. That's
much like SNL itself.
Much like this podcast.
Much like this podcast. Yeah. Much like a place we could use some improvement on this podcast. More listener reviews.
Yes, people get on.
We could always use more of that. If you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy what we do, if you want to support us, a great way to do that, besides going to our Patreon, is just rating and reviewing us on the potosphere of your choice.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, we like hearing the feedback, and it helps boost us in the algorithm, and that's always nice.
Oh,
We enjoy that.
always nice, always
Mhm.
welcome. And
If I,
Yes.
yeah,
yeah, and that's the episode, guys. Thanks again for listening as always. Dennis, my
yeah,
man, thank you once
yeah.
again for bringing the heat
It's an
again.
honor. It's a delight and an honor every time, and thank you guys. That's I look forward to it all the whole year through.
Yes. Anything to plug? Anything to promote? The floor is yours.
Yeah,
Good
where
sir.
can people check you out?
Oh,
Where are
heck.
you on the socials? And
I write all over the place now. I used to have just one home, and now I've had to branch out. The best place, there's the aggregator site Authory. You can just look up my name, and it has what do you call it? Compiles all the articles I do in different places. Paste, Late Nighter. I do some stuff for Entertainment Weekly, Prime Timer, whoever will pay me, really. Good old Portland Press Herald, Portland, Maine represent. That was my first ever professional gig. I'm still doing it 15 years later.
that's awesome.
I don't know. I'm around.
Yeah. And yeah, check out Dennis Perkins at Authorly, and you never know where he might bounce to next.
Yes, absolutely.
There's always new websites out there in the offing, and but there's always going to be a place for you to do an SNL review somewhere.
Thank
I
you.
think.
Absolutely.
So.
And and as always, you can follow me on Twitter because we refuse to call it X. Instagram, all the other platforms. You can follow us or at SNL Nerds Show, and you can follow me personally, me, myself, and I, at Darren Credible, DARIN Credible.
And you can follow me personally at Trumbull Comic. That's spelled TRUMBULL, and the word comic. So yeah. So if you can't get enough of my opinions here, that's where you go to get even more of them.
Yeah, the raw uncut.
Even more hot takes.
Yeah.
Hot takes. So we are officially in the summer hiatus, Darren.
Summertime and the living easy.
You know what that means? We're doing movies. We're doing 3 straight months of movies starring SNL alums.
My Lord in heaven, it's gonna be wonderful.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
So should we give the folks a sneak peek as to what we're going to be doing? The first movie we're going to be doing this year?
Yeah. Let's. We decided to start out because the late great Dabney Coleman passed away sadly just a few weeks ago. We decided to do a movie that's starring Dabney Coleman and also an SNL alum, Mr. Bill Murray. I am, of course, talking about 1982's Tootsie,
Yeah.
starring Dustin Hoffman as actor Michael Dorsey, who goes in drag as Dorothy Michaels to get a desperately needed job on a soap opera, and wackiness ensues.
Yes.
And, this is an old favorite of mine. I'm looking forward to revisiting it on the show.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one in a minute, but I'm looking.
Yeah.
I remember liking it the first time, so I'll be looking forward to revisiting it with Dustin Hoffman, Jessica Lange, Terry Garr,
Gina Davis,
yes, Christine Ebersol, another SNL alum.
That's right. We're getting her Richard Mulligan. Is the late great Richard Mulligan?
No, Richard Mulligan's not in there. I'm sorry.
No. Who is that actor
George
that looks
Gaines.
like Richard Mulligan? George
Gaines from Punky Brewster and Police Academy.
Thank you. Yes.
He's hilarious.
Mr. Warnemont.
I should have I have the DVD in my hand, so I should have just been looking at the back cover of the DVD instead of trying to go by memory. But yeah, those two look alike. No, thank you for the correction. I'm always appreciated.
I just didn't want you to get angry people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't inspire that many angry tweets unless I express an opinion about comic books.
Sure.
Then back in January, I had an opinion about Watchmen, and the insults came for me. Oh boy.
Wait, people have strong opinions about Watchmen?
No, not really. Not anymore because I blocked all the fuckers.
But yeah, George Gaines, the late great Charles Durning, of course.
Yeah.
And Charles Durning, so good in this. Yeah,
late great Sidney
yeah.
Pollack. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of the writers was the late great Larry Gelbart, who had some interesting things to say about his experience working on this movie. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching Tootsie again. That'll be us next week. And if you have suggestions for movies or possibly even shows that you want us to cover over the summer hiatus, please let us know. If we haven't covered it on the show already, we will check it out as long as we can get our hands on it somehow. So yeah, let us know what you want to see. What do you want to hear us talk about over the summer? But next week, Tootsie. So too late to suggest something for that. So we'll be back here talking about Tootsie, see how that holds up next week. But until then,
Nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.